So I want to welcome everybody to this episode of the podcast. And I am joined by Kerry. She is an adoptee. She is an advocate for adult adoptees. And a fun fact, everybody, she's also my cousin. So what Kerry does, she helps other adoptees heal and grow from the challenges of childhood adoption. And so she brings a really unique mix of personal insight and professional expertise. She is currently a counselor in training, and she is almost done with her master's. So I thought it would be a great opportunity just to give people an insight into what you do and how you can help.
Well, I'm glad to be here. This is my first time doing anything like this, so that's more than half. It's nice.
And you also work full time,
Dude,
right? So you're full time. What do you do for your regular job at the moment?
my real job is I've been occupational therapy assistant for 20 years. I work in the nursing home where I live, and it's been a great profession. But now that my kids are grown and I have some time, I'm kind of burnt out and I'm ready to pursue something a little different that I've always been interested in. And now I'm pursuing something that I love.
And it's where your heart is as well. Can you share a little bit about your personal story as an adoptee and really how it helped shape you into the adult you are today?
Okay. Yeah. So, um, I was born in 1972. Adoption in the 70s was a lot different than it is now. It was closed, unsealed. I don't even know if it could be opened. That's something that I haven't even looked into. But anyway, whenever I was 3 days old is when I was adopted. So, my parents went through a private adoption attorney. It was like a facility or, whatever the different adoption places are. And I just kind of grew up knowing that I was adopted. I didn't ever remember a time where my parents sat me down. I'm sure, I mean, they did because, I knew, but it wasn't just like detrimental, I guess, to my mental health. And I just remember the whole, hey, you're adopted thing. Great parents, wonderful family. I couldn't have asked for better. I was blessed. I had a great childhood. We weren't rich, but we weren't, poor. My parents worked hard and raised me to be a good person. So here I am. Always experienced thoughts about adoption and not negative, but just who my parents are, who my family is. So, oh gosh, I don't remember what year it was. My son gave me an ancestry kit for Christmas. And so I took it basically like, because I've always wondered, like, what's my ethnicity? Because in the back of my mind, whether this is something totally made up or it really, I don't know. My mother, I'll never call her my adopted mother. My family is my family. So when I say family, mother, dad, that's who they are. She told me that she saw my biological mother, I guess at the lawyer signing papers or whatever, and that she had blonde hair and blue eyes. So I've always wondered, like, what my cultural background is, ethnicity, if there's anything through there. So that's why my son bought me the ancestry kit to go through what my identity was, I guess, cultural identity. And so it links you up with people that share your DNA. So I was able to be in touch with a few of my biological family members. One in particular, we say we're cousins. I don't know if we are or not. She's the same age as my kids, but she's tried real hard to help me, like figure out how we're related and all that stuff. So like I've always grown up wondering, but out of respect for my parents, I never questioned it. They were great. Never a reason for me to be like, hey, I want to look for my adopted, my biological parents or whatever. Like I just didn't pursue it, but I always grew up feeling different. It's just a weird thing. Like when you're, the way you're raised and the things you're influenced by your family that you're surrounded with and your parents, like that sticks. But then there's also like this other identity that's like inside of you that's different. I feel like I view things differently.
You're having to look at it through such a different lens. So another question was the DNA kit. Was that when things started opening up for you?
Yeah, it kind of was just weird to when they link you up or they provide you with like their profile, their ancestry profile. And so most of the time they'll have a picture, and so like the first one that popped up, which is Christina, I was just like, oh my gosh. I told my daughter, I was like, it's so weird seeing somebody that favors me. Because growing up, like, I mean, y'all had blonde hair, red hair, like fair skin, and like I'm dark, dark complexion and dark hair. So like it was just weird. And I didn't think about it growing up that I didn't look like my family. None of that ever crossed my mind. I mean, it was just my family, and to see that, yeah, it opened it up. And I laugh because my mom, whenever she was old, getting in bad health and stuff, she told me, she said, if you ever wanted to look for your birth parents, like, I'm not going to be offended. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Like, I'll help you, but still just out of love for her, I was like, absolutely not. I don't care
Yeah.
anything about that. So I guess when she passed away, it just kind of, I'm like, I'm not trying to start looking into it, and it's just like dead end. Really, I haven't found anything. Christina's tried to help me. And of course, there's hundreds of second cousins, possibly second cousins, third cousins, on
On the ancestry site?
yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
There's
okay.
so many, but I have a lot on the West Coast. So California,
Oh,
Christina lives in Oregon, and then Dallas. So that's where my adoption. I was born at Baylor in Dallas.
okay.
And so there is a little cluster of family that's there in Dallas, but we've never.
I guess, have you met anybody face to face, like in real life at all
No,
yet?
no. I would
Not
love
yet?
to, but I mean, if it's not in the cards, it's not in the cards.
Yeah.
It's just a part of me that is just going to be an unknown. And I have to just accept that and, work through when it gets brought up, when it surfaces, which is, when you go to the doctor and they're like,
Oh, no,
so,
I didn't think about that.
my last doctor's appointment I went to after we had lunch. He wanted to do genetics testing to look for genetic markers, that for overweight and what goes along with it. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, it would be interesting to know. And he's like, well, are any of your family members overweight? It doesn't matter because they're not, I mean, they're not biological.
Did you
So,
let him know, like, "Hey, I don't
well,
know anything."
yeah, no, that's not going to help. No, but I mean, that's not going to help anything. So, yeah, it's just times like that that the
Those things that,
surfaces,
like, pop up almost unexpected, maybe.
because you don't know, like, you have a history of cancer or history of heart conditions or history of this. And I'm like, I don't know, man. With no idea.
There's a lot of unknowns, it sounds like,
Mhm.
especially when you're trying to answer those types of questions, and that opens up a lot, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So your identity and belonging. So we kind of touched on this a little bit. So some of the challenges, you talked about the doctor's office challenge when
Mhm.
navigating your identity. Anything else come up with that?
A lot of times, and just like in my the little research that I've done, which this has opened up a whole avenue as far as research, and then even um, maybe a specialty once I get finished with school and get my LPC. And it is something that I kind of would like to specialize in, is working with adult adoptees, because um, any like a life event, a marriage, birth of
Mhm.
a child, and like whenever you lose your adoptive parents. So to me, my dad passed away in 2004, mom passed away in 2020. Just mourning for loss, but also like the loss of my adoptive family, my
Yeah.
parents, like it's, it's just a big transition, a different kind of, it's a loss in the normal sense, but then it's another loss as well, because Now I have like nobody. Not saying that my extended family I have,
Right.
but it's hard to explain, but those bring up all those little life happenings, bring up, even like the birth of a child. So like, they press like to have the skin on skin and like the bonding time. And that's something that I didn't have. I was 3 days in the hospital without a parent, without, just the nurses. So I didn't experience that bonding time with anyone. And a lot of times that can bring up all kinds of different things. Um, so yeah, just everything, happy times, and it's cool, and especially when you have your family, but then you still have that little in your pocket of, I have other family that I would love to have celebrating with me, but they're not here.
It sounds really challenging.
Mhm.
So, in your opinion so far, how have you seen adoptees find a sense of like belonging when you're balancing these biological and adoptive, I guess, identities?
It is hard when it comes to like, one thing is you just have to acknowledge your feelings are valid. And that's one thing that I like to advocate for is the things that I felt my entire life, the thoughts that came through my mind, I felt bad about. I felt bad for thinking about like my identity and how I feel like I have a fake identity and then my true
Mm,
identity. And so it's just your feelings are valid. It's normal. You're not a bad person. Identity is not a static concept. And that's hard to wrap your mind around, but it evolves. And being an adoptee just adds another layer.
okay.
That's deep, but it's true. It's your identity is ever changing. Even taking the adoption part out, my identity is changing now. I'm moving into a different time of life,
Yeah.
pursuing a different career. So my identity is going to change with my new career as well.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
So
I like
it's
that.
just kind of you have to like take it in stride and work through it. So that's what I do is when I start really feeling down about it or feeling bitterness is a big
Yeah.
feeling. Um, I wasn't good enough. Why did my parents not want me? Just acknowledge that it's okay to feel that way. Journaling, that's another thing. In fact, I was hoping it would be in before this podcast, but I found a journal. Um, it's called Voices Unheard, a reflective journal for adult adoptees. Yes, it's written by, she's a licensed mental health counselor, Lisa Capola. So I'm excited to have something to journal and kind of work through. We'll see how that goes.
So, I'm so curious, was there a point in your counseling journey? Like, did you decide that, like the adoptee route, before you decided to get your master's degree? Or was that just like, oh, that's interesting? Was it just kind of like, did it just unfold almost naturally for you?
It did. I really didn't think about it. It was kind of like in the back of my mind, but I was in my marriage and family class and we were going over family systems theories. And I don't know, I was studying over one and like trying to do an application to a scenario with a certain theory. And it just hit me like, how do adoptees fit into this family systems theory? Because there wasn't so far that what I read, when you're in school, it's just, you get the basics and, kind of like laser focus. So that's what prompted me. I wanted to do more research on it. I'm like, there wasn't any kind of account for adopted children or parents or whatever to fit into this family systems theories. And I was sitting there thinking like, how does that change it? Does it change how that works? Or, Because for me, it would,
Yeah,
there's
of
lots of
course.
different aspects or things that you don't take into account with adopted families, you know. So that was like my aha moment. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was studying and
Really?
like, oh my gosh. The next time we were in class, I was like, out, like, help me work through this. And my professor was like, sounds like you have a good research topic.
That I love how that unfolds for you.
It was awesome. I was like, this is okay. This is why I'm
3
doing
o'clock in the morning thing, that's really I think that's significant too. You're like, you have the aha, like, "Wait a second."
well. And then, it's just going back to school at my age, with a full-time job and family responsibilities. There's times when I'm up in the middle of the night contemplating my life choices. Why did you do this? This is ridiculous. You could be asleep. But it was moments like that it just recharges and lets me know I am on the right path. I have a reason.
So let's go back to the emotional side of adoption. I know you did talk about a little bit of like there was a little grief or negativity or something, which is, to be expected. So a lot of adoptees talk about the feeling of loss, just like you have earlier, and some grief at different points in life. How has that played a role in your journey?
I know people that have adopted. So I have a friend, and a coworker. She's also my coworker that recently adopted. And so when I'm telling her about all this stuff, she's like, "Oh, wow, like this is very interesting for me because of how my daughter's gonna feel. Like, is she gonna feel the same way?" And I'm like, I'm sure at some point she is. Like, y'all are great parents. They are. They're great, great people. It's just being raised in a loving home. And so was I. I still have thoughts, the focus is on the younger kids and like how it affects them or adopting the adoptive parents that are adopting. But a lot of times, like, you either grow up with all this all the time in your head. For me, it's more when I became an adult it really kind of hit me. So it's something that spans a very long time across. I haven't really known anybody else that's an adult adoptee that I've reached out to. I think once maybe I get my platform out there, even just sharing on my Facebook page that we were doing this, I have a friend that's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm adopted. This is awesome." I did not know
Did
that.
you know that this person was adopted? The
Did
friend of yours?
not. I did not.
I really haven't seen a whole lot of people talk about like what happens when you're an adult and navigating, like just get through life, as an adult.
I think it's just like a lot of people don't talk about it. It's it because I feel like that people will say, "That's kid stuff. You should have worked through that, when you're a kid," and then the whole, "You should be grateful that you had great family. You should not feel like, everything happens for a reason. You're probably better off." And that's all, that's well and good. But unless you're in the situation or an adoptee or even an adoptive parent or whatever, like it's hard to describe. It's very, um, like I said, I felt bad for feeling the way that I felt and doing research for a paper and for my family system, marriage and family class. I was reading these little case studies that they were doing and it's like almost word for word. All these people were the same thoughts, the same age and, younger, older, like it's just, and I just don't think that people understand that there are people that can help you walk through it out there that, can help you. It doesn't matter your age. We all experience and have thoughts differently and at different times in our life. And like we talked about, like they may lie dormant until something happens, like a life experience, and then they just kind of surface. And then a lot of times, if you're like me, they surface and you're like, quit worrying about that. So yeah, you just gotta really like learn like I'm doing. This is a learning process for me too. It's new for me to work through it. And so I'm a work in progress and hopefully, I can find other people that need that support or encouragement or just that little boot that says, hey, we've got this. Tell me, unload on me, tell me how you're feeling, because I promise you, I've thought the same thing.
What part does forgiveness play in healing?
That forgiveness, like, so my forgiveness for, or being able to forgive my biological parents, is not giving them a get out of jail free card, you know, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Even if you, like, I don't know their story. I don't know why, what happened, anything about it, but there's still like that loss. And I feel resentment. I feel because of the issues that it's given me, my fear of abandonment issues, but I can't say that I'm at that point where I've completely forgiven them. That's something that I'm going to have to work through, but I have to eventually for myself. It's not like letting them off the hook or for them. It's for me so that I can just eventually get past that and accept it.
Are there some challenges that adoptees face that would surprise people outside of the adoption realm or community?
Honestly, really, the only thing I can think of right now is just the fact that we do have two identities inside of us. I think in that no matter our upbringing or what our families instilled in us, we still have this other part of us that is been given to us by our biological families. I mean, it's there. Navigating those two identities is hard because you sit there and think, why don't I think that way? Like, I've been raised to think that way. My parents would like die if they knew that how I felt about things or the things that I like or enjoy that are just totally opposite of, my parents or my family. Like it's odd.
I don't know if you have any like reunion stories. You did mention that you met a cousin.
Mhm. I've spoken via text and like Facebook and stuff. A few family members. I don't really know how I'm related to them. Some of them I'll say, "Oh, I think they're my aunts," but I've spoken to my cousin, an aunt in California, who, when my daughter and I were gonna travel to California, we were gonna try to meet up with them, but they had other plans, so we didn't get to see them while we were there. And then I have spoken to a couple of people in the Dallas area. Um, they weren't as open, so I respect that. That's absolutely their choice. No hard feelings. I hate it because we're so close. And
Yeah, so if y'all don't know, we are in East Texas, which is about a couple of hours out of Dallas. So for her, Dallas is fairly close.
so yeah, I'm I do keep in touch with my little cousin. That's probably a second cousin. I don't know. I love her to death. She's just crazy and fun and a big support system, believe it or not. Just we had an instant connection. It was like, there you are. And I love her to death. We just are close, even though we're not close geographically. She's in Oregon and living her little fun 20-something-year-old life.
I guess the vibe I got when you first told me about her was like not shy about being open with you.
And she gave me some hard truths about some of my biological family that I was like, oh, okay. Apparently
Anything you want to touch on, or is it like off the table?
that was it. That was just what they did. They had kids and got rid of them. That's the nutshell. There's a lot of us that were adopted in that
So, okay, are you saying that you possibly have lots of brothers and sisters, or just lots of cousins, or do you not know?
probably, I'm sure there's probably lots of brothers and sisters. A thing that stung was some were kept and some were not. So,
Okay.
so that's something that you have to work through about why was I not chosen. It's just a whole, I mean, it's.
I mean, there's questions that are coming up for every answer, it probably sounds like. And this brings me to my next point. If somebody is thinking about searching for their biological family, what is some really good grounding advice that you could give based on your experience in that type of situation?
I would say do not have high expectations. You're going to have to go into it I mean, I'm not saying don't get excited about it because it is exciting. It is exciting, but
And I can see how people, I mean, I've never been in a situation like that, but getting excited about like
yeah.
something that's so possible.
Or and I miss like a relationship that you missed out on. Let's say I had a sister or a brother, because I was the only child, and so the thought of having like a brother or sister, I'm like, gosh, that would be so cool. I've never experienced that. So I would be excited if the time come, like, let's say somebody in Dallas said, hey, I'm ready. I would be so, so excited. But, they're dealing with things on their end as well, not just us on our end. So like just having no expectations, just going into it with an open mind that it is what it is. They may say, I don't want to do this at the last minute, back out. I had that happen. Um, just try not to have, you know, the expectation that it's just going to be like the shows where, the adoption reunion shows and it's just happy and everything's great and they have a great relationship. Like it doesn't always work that way. Prepare yourself for
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
hurt that could
That's
happen.
some really, really good advice just to be like grounded and have your feet in reality. And like, there's always hope. But then I know that's got to be so tough.
And then like just giving them time to process. So it's a lot. Like it was our audience not on their end too. So just giving it time and grace and, that whatever they choose is not a reflection of you. It's their deal. Yeah. And it's not yours. So you did your part to reach out and then ultimately the ball's in their court and, you just have to step back and let it fall about how it's supposed to. And if it doesn't, you know, self-reflect on that and it's okay. You have to acknowledge that no matter what the outcome, you're going to be okay. You come this far, no, it's going to be okay.
For adoptive parents, what is one of the most important ways that they can support their children, their well-being, not just when they're kids, but when they are like teenagers? And
Mhm.
probably that's when a lot of questions probably will come up. And in adulthood, what's the best way, in your opinion, that they can support their kids?
Things are different with adoptions now. I mean, we have like open adoptions. So, and just, I've thought about this because a lot of times I have my friend, her daughter's still young, and like that was, and so like her telling like when to tell them, and that's hard for me to say because like I don't remember my parents telling me, so I don't know if it's just because I was just so young, and they told me, so I just accepted it because kids are resilient at young ages, but my personal opinion is you're doing a disservice if you don't tell them, like just growing up, them not knowing, and then like spring, they're going to find out eventually. Kids are, something's going to come up that they're going to be like, this is weird. And, because then on top of the whole adoption thing, then it's a lot of, why didn't you tell me? And, you've been lying to me. And, so that just brings up a lot more that, so my thing is just, have those conversations at an early age. And it shouldn't stop at childhood. Feelings evolve, and that the parents should remain opening to always revisiting those hard discussions, all throughout. As you go through different life things, marriage and kids, it's going to pop back up and they're going to want to have conversations again, and it's going to, um, like with my kids, I've always had a big open communication. We talk about everything. And so just making sure that you keep that good rapport with your kids and, don't be offended when they ask or have these big feelings about it because they don't love you any less. They aren't wishing that it hadn't happened. It's just that they have to work through it.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it's not just a one and done. I think that's some really good advice coming from like where you are today, clearing up some maybe misconceptions about everything. Do you have anything that stands out as one big misconception that we haven't touched on? Or
I put the word ungrateful. I feel like that a lot of times, when adoptees or kids or whatever age start bringing up the questions or the feelings, then it's automatic. Well, you're just ungrateful. You should, like I said before, you should be happy you're adopted. You had a great childhood. We gave you everything. You could have had it worse. Yeah. To me, that the feeling that whenever we talk about how we feel or have questions, that we're ungrateful. And it's not that at all. We're just trying to find ourselves. We're trying to, piece, come together with our two identities, and like figure out like what's our place. Like for me, I'm not going to say we, because not everybody's going to feel the same. Some adopted, and like I said, my family was great. So I was never given a reason to have any hard feelings. I don't have, my feelings are not hard feelings. They're just my feeling. And it's, I'm not ungrateful in any way. I'm very happy. I feel very blessed with who God picked for me, to be my family. And I'm sure it probably was way better, I don't have any doubts about that. I'm sure that there's a reason, and that's fine. But, it's a journey. Um, and it doesn't take away from the love that I still have. I have to remind myself that this is my journey, and like for my family, I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to discredit their love for me. I know my family loves me. Hands down, honey. And I love them. Y'all are like, don't mess with my family. Like,
Yeah.
good, and
We go way back. But
yeah,
then you have other things that you've got to go even farther back to you're figuring it out.
yeah. And it doesn't, so like, that's one thing. It's like, it's nothing to do with, well, you don't love us, or you think we didn't do enough for you, or whatever, but we love you, I know.
You're like, I get that part, but I still got lots of questions. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's true. We all are like, like I can't imagine my life without you, really. But also I'm like, of course she's got questions. She's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So, I mean, just kind of outsider looking in, I'm like, she's got to do this. This is like her dharma, your life's work
Mhm.
right here. And it's hard and it's uncomfortable. Can I ask you about your kids? Have they known the whole time?
Mhm. Yeah. They've always known that I was adopted. They've always, and it's never been like a conversation of, I remember one instant that happened, and really it set my mother off. Um, Whenever I was going through a divorce with my son's dad, and it was pretty tense. That's putting a very light word on a very rough time. A lot of just fussing and bickering between the families, and the grandmother said to my mother, well, I'm his real grandmother. And my mama hit the roof, and I hit the roof, because that is his real grandmother. Just because our blood ran through my parents does not mean we're any less of a family. So sometimes people use that to be mean, and that's another whole thing. Yeah, it's hurtful. And so that brought up a lot for me at that time, and my mom at the time, and at a time that you're not even thinking about stuff like that, so that just goes to
It's kind
show.
of coming out of nowhere all of a sudden that
Yeah.
you're like, I'm already dealing with this really tough time and it's adding the insult to injury, so to speak.
It goes along with the feelings of, once again, I was discarded. There's just so many big feelings that come along with it that still to this day, it's openly like going through it myself helps, because I guess like working it through out loud. So I hear it, and, you know, other people can hear it and say, oh my gosh, I felt the same way. I feel the same way.
Yeah, and just kind of having that connection
Mhm.
with someone else.
Yeah. And, going back to the different feelings, because I think it I think it's stuff that needs to be brought up just for everybody involved, like whether you've adopted or you're adopted or you have adopted a child, like they're going to go through these feelings. And one of mine is abandonment, and that's carried through into my love life. It is like and I've always wondered, where in the world does this come from? Where does this come from? Why do I feel this gut wrenching thing if somebody ghosts me on a dating app? But there's something deep seated in there. It's just like another, or I'm in a relationship and I feel like that pulling away and I just start, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then I just overcompensate to try to keep that person in my life, because it all goes back to that feeling of abandonment from not, you know, my parents didn't even want me. That's gone through my mind. Why would anybody else want me? My own parents didn't even want me, So it's a lot. You have kids that are, older that get adopted foster system, and, they've been jumped around or house to house or I mean, they still have orphanages, and that's that's a lot. So,
It's bigger than I think we as a society even think about.
but more so, like, for my generation, I think it's because it's a little different because everything was so hush hush and closed, and it's not as open as it wasn't as open as it is now. Like, I know a lot of adoptions are open adoptions where they still have a relationship of some sort with their biological parents. There's that whole dynamic that's surfaced these days now as well. So it kind of takes out that I don't know where I'm from. I don't know who my family is, that helps with that. But there's still that,
There's still probably a lot of questions.
oh, there are probably some young adults now that have, had an open adoption. I'll be very curious as to how that journey went for them.
So that you said you brought up the word that kind of came out was like abandonment or isolated or even misunderstood. For people that are kind of in your situation who is an adult, and they're feeling these feelings, what could you say to them? What would you want to say to them right now?
Please seek counseling. um, Start with journaling. If you don't, I mean, I know there's like a stigma around counseling sometimes. And um, even though that's what I say you need, even just journaling and starting to get those thoughts out on paper and sitting with them, trying to work through them. And I think that even if you do that pre-counseling, that way you've got a little base to kind of make you feel like, I think I want to talk about this. I see this. And I think I want to talk to somebody about that. Healing as an adoptee is ongoing. It's a journey that just doesn't stop. And it's about embracing your story, because it is part of you. It is your story. You've got to, you know, grab a hold, because it is what it is. And then finding a community that allows you to be yourself and allows you to open up about it, and there's no judgment. Um, um, Finding that community is big, because they're going to give you the grace you need and the understanding that you need to open that door and start playing around in there, with those feelings and kind of working through. So just, finding your people that understand you, seek counseling if you can, or open to it. That if you don't take anything else away from this today, is find your community and try to get some counseling to help you work through it.
One of my last few questions is looking forward, and this is just like in the realm of possibilities. What do you hope the adoption conversation looks like in, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
I hope that there's more resources out there for adoptees. Specifically, my forte is adult adoptees. I hope that I'm one of those people in the future that can provide that specialty, but I just hope that the conversations are easier. It should be something that's embraced and celebrated, and, you know, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay that we're adopted, and it's okay that we have these feelings about it, and, just being supportive, you know, this would be great.
What keeps you motivated to do this work, even when you're still going through it?
Just knowing that it may help somebody. That's my whole reasoning for wanting to get into the counseling profession is I love people's hearts, their souls, their who they are. And, counseling, when I am a counselor, what I'm learning in my training is, we can't fix things for you, but we provide the tools for you to open up. As long as you're open, we're going to help you find the tools and find a way to work through whatever it is you need to work through. And that, to me, having the skills to provide that to somebody to where they can work through whatever they're going through and have better mental health. That's that's all the motivation I need. It's just to know that I can help somebody.
Personally, y'all, I know Kerry's heart because I've been around her all my life, and she's there for people.
I know how it felt. I know how it felt whenever I just read about a case study of somebody that was thinking the same thing. It was just so much relief that, okay, I'm not the only one that thinks this way. So if I can be that for somebody, 100% about it.
Okay, so Kerry does have a support group on Facebook, and I will leave that in the show notes. If you're interested, you can message her. Also, if you have any more questions for Kerry, you can put those in the comments, and I will get her in touch with you. And Kerry, I just want to thank you so much for being so open and saying yes to being on this podcast. I always like to end with be kind to yourself, please, and be kind to others. Have a good day. See you next time.